Hello, students. My name is Mr. Thompson, and my highly qualified colleagues are Armando Gutierrez and Kelvin Wong. We are here to teach you about Chapter 15 and 18. Yours truly will be beginning with Chapter 15, developing positive self-concepts for the first third of this presentation, while the second two-thirds will be on Chapter 18, direct instruction. Coincidentally, what I am using primarily because it lends itself well to Zoom. My audience here is prospective secondary teachers as well as students. All right, we do both. I will be summarizing and explaining Chapter 15. This initial stage will be comprised of 9 slides on Google Doc, as you can see here, or Google Slides, and it will be accompanied by a worksheet. And the worksheet is available, and it looks something like this. All right, it's 1 page long, and you can copy and use it online, or of course, print it out if you like. Now, obviously we have the visual Google Slides as mentioned earlier, and we also have a transcript of the audio. So it's not exactly word for word from what I'm saying, of course, but it's pretty good and it gives you a nice overview of everything that we're going to be going over today. Now, embedded in the worksheet are 2 quick writes. So pausing the video will be needed so that you can perform them. The worksheet is roughly in chronological order, so it would behoove you to keep it handy. And you can always use, as mentioned before, paper version or online, fill it out. And of course, shortly I will begin with some information related to students' potential and drive for self-actualization. Then I will dive into a plethora of information regarding teachers and particular personality traits that should be avoided and others that should be garnered. Without further ado, here we go. Now, chapter 15 is, we're going to begin here with a paraphrase of Charles Eliot's quote: "The vast majority of us, humans, possess the remarkable potential for learning, and that individual differences in intellect are not as such important as to warrant the designing of special and separate programs to accommodate. The varied environments and teaching modalities will do the job." Now, this idea was tailored toward tracking in schools, but nonetheless sets the scene for students being much more alike than different and capable to uncanny degrees. Now, in education, we have a bell-shaped curve, right? Meaning there is a small minority of students that need special treatment. That is both on the low and high ends of the spectrum. But as Mr. Eliot professed, the vast majority of students may learn slightly differently by degree, but they learn nonetheless. Right, so on our worksheet, if you're following along, we have a quick write here. Now, I would like you to engage in the quick write for, say, 5 to 10 minutes on the topic of tracking in schools, facts and feelings, and or your thoughts on various teaching strategies that you may implement in your own discipline to try and reach every student. Now, you may pause the recording here to do so. Wonderful. I'm glad you're back. We are now moving on to slide 4. Now, in chapter 15, developing positive self-concepts, finding your inner self and potentially learning how to practice in self-actualization, as you can tell, Maslow's highest level, is the chapter's main focus, right? So students can accelerate their ability to learn and perform by, coincidentally, learning and gaining skills. This process can be of exponential growth that lies on a positive feedback loop where learning potentiates future learning, right? It builds upon itself. Now, learning is affected, of course, by the social climate and environment you're in, and what a mighty web they weave with the school-provided curriculum, right? We also need to be aware of the self and how it is to reach out into the world and reciprocally contribute to and profit from transactions with it. Now, if I can garner your attention to the two unverified quotes above Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one reads, "We are all employees of the world as we giveth and taketh from it." As was just previously stated, that students and people in general should have a reciprocal relationship with learning, school and community, right? Giving and taking. The second quote, "You must actively resist entropy because it actively draws upon you," meaning students constantly have opposing forces that one needs to consciously resist with the ultimate goal of striving for self-actualization. We're going to move on to slide 5. Now, with all that said about the student, it is the teacher that is dissected most in this chapter. The authors point to conceptual systems theory, CST, which turns out to be a useful predictor of teacher-student interaction and a teacher's aptitude, ability, or fitness to acquire the competence to use teaching skills and strategies. Now, this form of growth, as does much personal growth, it coincides with personality, self-concept, and psychological maturity. Now, it comes in seen to engage in 3 primary types of professional growth, termed, as we can see here, formal, peer-generated, and personal domains. The formal domain spanned from attending only activities sponsored by the district to effectively exploiting the opportunities far and wide. Right? Those are vastly different, right? So between those in search of professional growth, right? Possessing a growth mindset, and those who don't believe knowing more will enhance their teaching abilities, right? A fixed mindset, or just don't care. But please understand, most teachers fall somewhere in between. It is that pesky bell-shaped curve once again. Now, the second term is that of peer-generated. Now, that's ranging from having nearly no professional discussions with other faculty to persons who had close and even mentoring relationships with other faculty, to individuals going above and beyond by instigating the introduction of innovations or initiatives for the improvement of the school. So try and be the latter rather than the former, right? Practice what you preach and be encouraging and optimistic rather than, of course, pessimistic or being what they have deemed negative Nancy, right, within the faculty. So rounding out the domains is the personal domain, and it refers to off-the-job involvement in non-compensated activities, right? What you pretty much do on your own or you're not going to get paid for. So here are more active people. They viewed the environment as an array of possibilities, right? It's kind of like at their whim. Now, the less active individuals were either unaware there were possibilities or indifferent to them. For these individuals, it is imperative for peer-generated involvement because that may be the only way to get them to act, right? This may also generate a colleagueship with one another that can perpetuate future and further involvement and continue to produce growth in individuals. Now, as you can see as number 4 here, as a personal anecdote, this is me, right? I am a less socially active person, especially outside of school and work. I'm a homebody, and I only go out when my family and friends coax me out, right? I am either at home, school, or the gym. Luckily for me and others like me nowadays, we can use technology to access a wealth of knowledge from home or anywhere, and probably in the world for that matter. But it is still good to have rich and consistent social interaction, right? That can't be understated. We got to keep that in mind. Social interaction is key, as we know in teaching, and of course, because of Corona, right? So this is slide 7. Now, interwoven with the previous domains are levels of activity. There are 3 primary levels. The first and most ambitious is that of gourmet omnivore. It's a pretty cool name there. These individuals delve into many realms. They participate with others. They have a habit of both exploiting and enriching whatever environment they're in. There's a versatility and flexibility to them. But of course, this is only roughly 10 to 15% of people. Now, moving down the hierarchy to the second level, which is where most of us reside, it is known as a passive consumer. They are not against anything, but don't strive for change. They mainly stick with what is required of them unless provoked by peers, right? Of course, within the peer generated or personal domains. Now, at the bottom level, there on the right, is the reticent consumer. They actively push away opportunities for growth. They have a pessimistic view, believing nothing changes for the better. They are not able to take ownership, and therefore plenty of excuses for why they don't get things done are created, right? These are the teachers you wish were not in the profession, because it is embarrassing, right, at the least, and harmful to students' future at the worst. So don't become the poster boy or girl or other for the reticent consumer, right? That would be a bad thing to do. Now, moving on to slide 8, we have some help here with becoming a gourmet omnivore in each of the 3 domains, right? So we have the formal, the peer generated, and personal, developing a strong self-concept and accompanying that with self-actualization behavior. In other words, being all you can be. That's the Army slogan, huh? Here are a few people you may be able to draw motivation from if needed. And we have some listed there, which I'll read in just a second. But don't settle or think you are a finely tuned machine with no room or need to grow. Live up to your title through impression and modeling. What aspects are important? Some of us may fake it till we make it, but that modeling of developing richer states of growth will pay off, not only for your peers and yourself, but your students year after year. Now, if we look at a few of these quotes quickly, that top one is Inky Johnson, and it says, "Commitment is staying true to what you said you would do long after the mood you said it in has left." All right, that's pretty deep. And his second one is, "People get upset not because of the adversity they face, but because their adversity reveals who they truly are." Pretty good as well. Now, of course, we have Jocko Willink is there, Les Brown, Jim Rohn, Eric Thomas. I'm just going to finish here with the quote of David Goggins. And he says, "I don't stop when I'm tired. I stop when I'm done." And everybody comes to a point in their life when they want to quit. But it is what you do in that moment that determines who you are. Now, you can definitely pause the video here and read the other quotes if you would like. They are awesome in my opinion, of course, and I did pick them. And we're gonna be moving on to number 9. All right. Now here, of course, you can see it says quick write. So all of the information you provide on the worksheet will allow me to gauge our competency on this information and what, if anything, needs to be elaborated upon. So if you could pause the video here in just a moment to perform this quick write, again, for about 5 to 10 minutes. There's no word count necessary or anything, but the quick write is, ask yourself which one of these categories, gourmet omnivore, passive consumer, reticent consumer, within domains, formal, peer generated, and personal, you find yourself in currently, right? So it could be a combination of each. You're not gourmet omnivore necessarily in each category, right? You can, in each domain, it could be different. So if you do not find yourself currently not at the upper echelon level, ask yourself why not, and then provide some ideas that can put you in search of a better you. If you are already a gourmet omnivore with active elements in formal, peer generated, and personal domains, please provide some examples that back up that claim. Right? I need some proof. I need some references there. Right? So I will be awaiting your responses. Thank you for paying attention. So chapter 15 has now come to a close.